Sir, the possibility of successfully navigating
A faith crisis?
is approximately 3,720 to 1.
Never tell me the odds.
So then, in the metaphysical sphere, the mystic is the one who feels that everything that happens is in some way harmonious, is in some way right, is in some way an integral part of the universe. Now, when we transplant or translate that into the moral sphere, the sphere of human conduct, the equivalent is this: there are no wrong feelings.
No wrong feelings.
Because everything we're talking about, in other words, we're not asking you to face the reality, we're asking you to use your imagination. We're asking you to contour your thoughts in order to produce feelings.
There are no wrong feelings.
Use your imagination, contour your thoughts in order to produce feelings.
Someone said that religion is for people who are afraid of hell, and spirituality is for people who've already been there.
Your whole countenance here as we are visiting with you is, this is hard, or I'm not doing it. And while that is the reality that maybe you've been living, it's not the whole reality. Because sometimes it isn't hard and often you are doing it. And so you just have to decide how you want to feel. When you feel a little negative emotion, if rather than saying, I need to change this thought or I need to bridge this belief, if you would say, I want to find a thought that feels better right now, right now, right now, right now. If you've adapted to not feeling good, then this isn't going to work for you.
Never tell me the odds.
This is Infants on Thrones.
Baby steps.
You want someone to preach to?
The philosophies of men.
I like magical toys.
You want religion, do you?
Mingled with humor.
I don't believe in them.
There will be many willing to preach to you the philosophies of men mingled with humor.
We are evolving.
Baby steps.
You can buy anything in this world of money.
Look for the good in everything. Look for the people who will set your soul free. It always seems impossible until it's done. Look for the good in everyone.
Welcome back to Infants on Thrones. I'm Glenn Ostland, and this is episode 716. Navigating a Faith Crisis in Real Time, Part 5, with Reed Christensen. Now, this is the final episode in this 5-part series, and I hope it's been as interesting and meaningful for you to listen to as it has been for both Reed and myself to participate in. Now, once again, I cannot thank Reed enough for his bravery and vulnerability to open up the way he has on this podcast. And I think we wrap it up very nicely today, but this isn't really the end. On April 4th, Reed will be joining me as we start a group coaching course that is designed like a workshop or like a reading group to take any of you who want to participate through the books and the messages that Reed and I have been discussing over these past 5 episodes. So it'll work a little bit like this. Those of you who sign up for group coaching will get a recording each week. Now, these will be private recordings shared only among members of the group, and they'll contain various excerpts from these texts along with reflection exercises and other goodies that we'll bring into our group coaching sessions, which will be held every other week. It'll be a great place to interact with like-minded people and work on areas of your life where you'd like to feel less stress and anxiety, a greater sense of self-confidence, and more peace of mind. So please take a few minutes to fill out the survey if you're interested, or email me at infantsonthrones@gmail.com. And now, here is part 5 with Reed. Enjoy. All right, welcome back, Reed. This is our 5th and final session for now. I'm not gonna shut the door on it completely, but we're gonna be moving to some group coaching that we're gonna be doing through Patreon starting in April, and you're gonna be part of that.
Yes.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. And so I've got a handful of people that have also expressed some interest. So now at least I know we'll have like 4 or 5 people starting out in April, and then others who want to join. can join along the way or do whatever you want to do. But we're going to focus tonight on the question that you asked me at the very end of last week. You wanted to know why you get triggered. You really wanted to know why you got triggered.
No,
and so we said, let's focus on this Michael Singer, the path of surrender, and take it away, Reed.
Okay.
What have you learned?
So we've gone through letting go. We've gone through inner size, and those are all great, but I think this might be my favorite.
Yeah. And by the way, the group coaching is going to focus on those, like similar things that we've talked about, pulling out bits and pieces of that in kind of like a focused way. That's going to be kind of our curriculum. So you're getting a sneak peek.
Which makes a lot of sense, because I feel like I could study this forever and not get to the bottom of it.
Right.
I listened to it twice. The second time a little bit faster, but because I needed to get through it again. But it was another. I mean, it brought up a lot of questions at the same time. But overall, I was just blown away by it, and I don't want to, use these superlatives too much, because I know I tend to do that. But the only way that I could describe it was that it was like listening to the original gospel of Jesus Christ.
Wow.
And that's hard for me to say.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because I don't know of a set of magic syllables like the words Jesus Christ that set off that trigger.
Yeah. For
me, because I feel, it was something that I felt very, the whole church experience, as anyone who goes through a faith crisis, it feels like a betrayal of your trust. And, I thought I had these feelings about Jesus Christ through the elevation emotion. And so I had this kind of, you're when you're in the church, I guess, when you're trying to actively believe everything and do what you're supposed to be doing, you're supposed to have like this relationship with this kind of imaginary being. You never met him, but you're supposed to have like this deep, really strong relationship with Jesus Christ. And it's all about this just, kinship or brotherhood or whatever, but he loves me so much, and I'm going to do whatever I can to please him, kind of. So, and then when part of the faith crisis experience was really studying Christianity and kind of where it came from and how it developed, and Christology and historical Jesus and all that sort of stuff, which was as shocking as anything else that I experienced with discovering things that I didn't know about Joseph Smith and all the stuff that he was up to. So, so the way Michael Singer, he does talk about God. He talks about Buddha. He talks about Jesus Christ. But
talks a lot about science.
He talks about science. Yeah. There was like his description of the creation of the universe was just a beautiful, beautiful thing. And
it's like something that you would hear from like on Cosmos or something.
Yeah. But he did it. He just did it so well. And he brought it all back to the moment, like this moment in time, this like everything that you're looking at, it all came to this point in time based on 13.8 billion years of stars exploding and imploding and creating all these elements. And here you are, you get to enjoy it. And what are you worrying about? You're worrying about like, should I get a new car? Or,
or do I look fat in these jeans? Or
just like these stupid things. And, but I don't know how else to describe it besides that. It was like the unfiltered, pure gospel of happiness or something.
Well, that's interesting because when we were messaging on Facebook, you told me that you really liked Michael Singer because he reminded you of Larry David. And so I've never thought of a Larry David version of Jesus, but I don't mind.
Well, there is a funny video on Amazon. We watched it back when I was at TBM. It was like the Gospel of Matthew or something. And the guy that was playing Jesus was like this New York guy. He had this really strong, he must have been Jewish, and he was just hilarious. He had to be Jewish. It was so fun. And I loved watching it because he was like this Jesus that was like funny and just like out there. And, so that Jesus Christ, that is a triggering word for me, for sure. Probably more than seeing a temple or seeing a picture of Russell M. Nelson. But for some reason that one kind of, it was just something I didn't want to talk about or think about, or, anytime I'd hear anyone bring up those two words was kind of a ouch moment. But I think, as he kept talking, it was like, there's so many things that Jesus was saying that was.
Now, I don't remember him talking about Jesus very much. Like he might have mentioned him once or twice, but like why was it? So I'm finding it interesting that you recognize that those words, Jesus Christ, are triggering to you. And yet you're the one that's bringing that up and making this connection. That's coming from you.
It's coming from my samskaras.
Oh, samskaras.
I don't know what it is. I don't know what, but when you think of, I was just kind of brainstorming, but what he talked about a lot is like when the outside world, whatever's happening, comes into contact with your junk, I think is what he called it, like the stuff inside you that's blocking that energy, whatever experience you had from your past that's created some sort of samskara or some sort of barrier for the energy to flow through you. So I couldn't help but think about like, how many people when they we just watched Murder Among the Mormons, and there's a story about, the father of Steve Christensen, Mr. Mack, the guy, the suit seller guy. He bought all the clothes and all the missionary stuff for Hoffman's son, Mark Hoffman's son, when he went on his mission. And it was like this great story of forgiveness. And I truly, thinking back on it, I mean, there's things within the church that I think that are true in terms of that forgiveness. I think as people tried to, when they would pray and try to rely on the atonement, I think what they were doing was releasing some of these samskaras that were kind of blocking the energy or the ability to love someone. And so that's why I can't help but just think about, okay, well, some of this is really, or like him teaching us that we should be like little children. Isn't that the same thing as when you were a little and it's funny because I think the church has bastardized some of the stuff where it's like, no, he's teaching that we should be obedient because children are so obedient. And it's like, I don't think so. Now I'm thinking, no, he was teaching us that when we're children, we don't have samskaras. There's nothing, we're not really afraid of all these things that have come into our life, and the concept of being born again. I mean, this feels like I'm being born again in terms of I've built up all of these things over my life, these different samskaras, and now it's like I have to clear them all out in order to be a different person, to be the person that feels like this love, this unconditional love. And so I couldn't help but go there, and it was helpful for me to hopefully bridge the gap with the trigger of the words Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Okay. So you said the word samskara, I think 4 times, and let's define it.
Okay.
So that people who are listening to this understand what the hell you're talking about. This word samskara. What is it? How do you view what a samskara is based on what you heard Michael Singer say?
And this really puts me out of my comfort zone because you just asked me something. I've listened to something once or twice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The second time at double speed.
Yeah.
But I think
it clearly means something to you.
Yes.
And so like I'm not looking for the right answer, Reed.
Yeah.
I'm looking for how do you understand what this concept is? When you use the word, what are you thinking of?
Okay, so as we go through life, our subconscious records everything, and we associate good things with certain objects or certain experiences, and bad things with certain objects and certain experiences. And so let's, some of the things he gave an example of, like a snake.
Mm-hmm.
You had a bad experience with a snake, and you see a stick, and you think it's a snake, and that's you doing that. That's a samskara. Like you have this fear. I think, and I couldn't help but also think of the amygdala and
Mm-hmm.
all of that whole network that's working to save you from danger. So that's a whole different subject. But you have all these images, and I loved the way he used the old plasma TV screens.
Right.
How if you had burn-in effect, and you couldn't see the screen except through this like fuzzy weird, like
it's frozen in
you can kind of see it right there. So you kind of see both. So your whole worldview is filtered through these old experiences.
Yeah.
And some of them are good. Some of them are bad. And what's kind of fun is I started, just before we started recording, is listing out some of the things that I experienced in my life that I carried on. And now I know, like, that doesn't make any sense. Like today we had a guy come over, and I always talk about my dog. I don't know why. He's a puppy. We're trying to figure out we've never owned a dog. So this guy came over to, he was doing this, dog training stuff. He was gonna, spend an hour with us and show us what he does. And he looked like someone that I knew from growing up, and I didn't like that guy. He was mean to me.
Yeah, right.
So guess what I did?
Yeah.
I looked at this guy and I was like, no, I don't think I want to use you as my dog trainer because of the way he looked.
Yeah.
So that was on me. That's a samskara, I believe, in terms of I had a past experience with someone who had the same dark eyes, the same hairline, and I projected that bad experience onto this guy who didn't deserve it, and decided, like, nah, I'm going to pass on you. And I realized it afterwards. I'm like, well, geez, he's just a normal guy. He just happens to look like that guy. He's not that guy.
Yeah.
And So
everything that you said about a samskara, that's the way that I understand samskaras as well. It's an accumulation of likes and dislikes and experiences that we've had throughout our life. And because you mentioned that the subconscious records everything. And then the other piece of that is that all new stimuli that comes in is compared to what we've stored away in our subconscious. And so there's this comparison. And you might remember in the Letting Go book with David Hawkins, and I used this as part of that meditation thingy that was at the end of episode 2, the excerpt from the book where he talks about this study, I think it was Gray and Laviolette or something like that where they memories are filed in our subconscious by emotions. So Singer was talking about that too. And you mentioned that there's experiences that you had, maybe it's with the snake and it scared you. So in your mind, that feeling of fear gets associated with that shape and wiggly thing. So that then if you see a stick out of the corner of your eye later and your brain just quickly does that comparison, it goes, oh, narrow, slender, circular thing, feeling of fear, here you go. And this stuff is just happening so quickly. We don't even think about it. And so we form these samskaras, which I think of as neural pathways. So like that frozen plasma TV screen that you're talking about. And now when you're looking at the screen, you always see that little frozen image on there. I think of that as the way that a neural pathway is the way that our information is being communicated from one region of our brain to another in order to have a thought or an experience or a feeling or movement, or all of our experiences of life go back to these neural pathways. So I think of a samskara as your set of programs that influence the way that you see the world. And when he's talking about energy and he's talking about clearing up, like from the perspective of neural pathways, I don't really know what that means, because you're not going to get rid of neural pathways. You're not going to clear them out, but there might be some like habits that you've developed. Like, I was talking with someone the other day that says whenever they get around this person, they just complain about work. They're just complaining and complaining about work. And that's kind of become the basis of their relationship. And he decided, you know what, I don't want to do that anymore. So when he was with this guy, instead of complaining about work, he was saying good things about work. And the guy's looking at him like, who are you? You know, what's going on? Why are you doing that? And so this guy was trying very consciously to change some of these habits, to change these neural pathways, that he was going to focus on other things besides just complaining. And then the resultant feeling that always associated the feeling. So he was trying to resculpt his brain in a way so that he creates these new habits. That's kind of how I view what Michael Singer's talking about with clearing the samskaras, or, you know, he talks about this method of relax and release. When you're feeling like, when you've got a neural pathway that's been activated, or the word that you use is triggered, something triggers you and you go into that fight or flight mode, you start feeling fear and anxiety. Michael Singer's suggestion is relax and release. And it's not that different from what John Asseroff in Inner Size said to do those take 6. Imagine that you're breathing in light, that you're breathing out anxiety, you're calming the circuitry, you're just calming down those neurals, you're relaxing and releasing. And that the more you practice relaxing and releasing, the more those neural pathways will dissipate, you know, not be so like fight or flight, amygdala kind of thing. So anyway, that's the way that I understand, and it's been helpful for me to understand it that way. So tell me a little bit about what has the impact been on you as you've been reading this? How have you seen this help you in areas of your life, either at work, with your family?
So first off, I think it brings a broader awareness to what I'm thinking in terms of judging people, first of all.
Yeah.
Like the experience I had today. It's being able to observe yourself. I mean, that's what we're always trying to do, is
when you say today, you're talking about the guy who came over to train your dog, and you had that unfair response.
Yeah, no,
to him.
He looked like a jerk.
Yeah.
So I guess when I say broader awareness, I'm saying a broader consciousness, right? This ability to kind of look at the whole landscape instead of just this little spot in front of me, and be like, oh, okay, I'm doing this because of that reason.
Yeah.
And so I think that's first what's going on in my head, is that now I'm re-examining all these things that either I love. So we just booked it was so funny. We booked a trip to Hawaii. Tickets dropped really cheap. It was like, okay, let's do this again. We can't get Hawaii out of our system or something. I don't know. But it's with the kids. It's over spring break. And then as we listen to that, he talks about like, you can never recreate, you know, the experiences you had in the past. And I totally get it. If we go back, it's not going to be the same, and we're going to be disappointed, because we think that we'll be happy only if we go back and repeat the exact same experience, and it's not going to happen. We're probably going to go back and we're going to see flooding and like everything that's going on right now. You know, and it was hilarious because my wife was listening as we were walking, and we just laughed, because it was like, well, I guess we blew that, you know, in terms of us trying to, you know, recreate these experiences and thinking. And he gives some really great examples of people, you know, putting in a kitchen and they change it like 20 times and they go through all
Yeah.
these contractors and they end up with the very first, because they're not going to be happy unless the external world looks exactly the way they want it to.
Yeah. That was one of my really big takeaways from this series, The Path to Surrender, is that when we don't really understand our own mind, this system of samskars, these neural pathways, we think that we'll only be happy if the world lines up exactly matching what we want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so what he's trying to offer in there is a way to say, why don't you learn how to be happy in any situation?
Right.
So it doesn't have to match up. So you're not going to try to control everyone or manipulate everything to match what it is that you want. You realize, oh, the reason that I'm feeling annoyed right now is because of me. It's because I've got something in here that's telling me that what's going on outside is wrong. But actually what's going on right outside right now makes perfect sense if you really look at all of the causal events that led to this moment to be exactly what it is. I'm just saying, well, it's not how I prefer it to be.
Right.
And, yeah. And so then you take that with the, like I had a really great experience at this restaurant. And so I'm going to take all my friends and, you guys are going to have the exact same experience too. And it always falls short. I mean, that's kind of what you were talking about with the Hawaii thing. So how do you then, like, knowing that, how do you still have a good time when you go to Hawaii in a couple of weeks?
You just know that it's not going to be the same. You know that it's going to be its own experience, and really, it's just going back to just being in the present, being in the moment, being just appreciating. I mean, when you're in Hawaii, you are blown away by the beauty of, this amazing island, and I think it would be the same thing. I mean, we'd see incredible beauty and just appreciate it. And if it rains all the time, and you appreciate that, and be happy that we're going to be playing cards inside, or that we're going to be spending time together as a family, and just there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do to change, the world in order to make us happy.
Yeah,
it's never going to work.
So you're cured now. You're not going to be triggered by anything. Is that it?
Oh no. So
right?
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
So like you listen to the book and you're like, okay, this is it. This is the answer. Of course not. Of course you're not going to be cured from the triggering. I mean, as much as it really is now, okay, now I need to figure out, and that's why I said you could study this stuff all, the rest of your life, I think, because after listening to it and it was like, okay, this makes so much sense. I still see a picture of, whatever, the temple or whatever. And it still bothers me. Or Murder Among the Mormons came out in the meantime. And so I was kind of watching that, but also listening and being semi-triggered by some of the stuff on there and being upset, by some of the stuff they might not have put in the show that I thought they should have, but yeah, so it's going to be a struggle, but now it's kind of like, I know the recipe, and I now just got to combine the ingredients and actually do the work.
And what is the work?
Like exercising it, doing, recognizing what's going on when it happens, and focusing on just like loving whatever it is. And that was something that I thought was really cool that he talked about was, we have these, these bad samskars, these ones that really are hurtful. And he talks about the song, Hello Darkness, My Old Friend. And you treat it like a friend. You treat it like something that's like, let's have a party. Let me celebrate, that kind of dark part of me or whatever that experience was, and accept it for what it is. Which is kind of reminds me of shadow work, or like that concept.
Yeah.
Which was never part of my past. Right. I think that the church had me looking at everything as you have to be as positive as possible. And you can never, you don't ever want to engage with any kind of dark side of you. And because that's the devil trying to influence you. And so yeah, I mean, now it's kind of feels like, okay, now I have some broader context or some broader instructions on how I can handle some of these things. And I'm excited to unfortunately face some bad things that happen to me to make sure that I can work through practicing how I'm going to treat those things. I mean, it's already happened. I talked about the dog trainer today. Yesterday I met with this old friend I haven't talked with from high school. I haven't talked to for, I don't know, 20 some odd years. And like, this is the first time I get to talk to him. He's one of my best friends in high school. And you're talking, and he was great. And then by the end, he gives me this kind of sales pitch that he's now a financial planner and would he like me to do some financial planning and probably sell me some life insurance or something. And I have another Sam Scar, and it is unfortunately salespeople, because I was burned when I was in college by someone who's selling something and totally ripped me off. And I just swore off salespeople from then on. I was just like, I'm never going to be nice to these guys. And if, normally I'm a nice guy, but get me in a car sales room, I just hate it, and I hate the people, and I just think they're slimy, and I don't think that's all too uncommon, but my mom loves them. My mom falls for every salesperson that comes along. She just loves all salespeople. And I think it's kind of funny how we have very different Sam Scars with salespeople, whereas I have this really, really negative, reaction to them, and she doesn't. And I shouldn't react the way I mean, it really bothered me yesterday. I all evening I was thinking about, that was just rotten of him to do, to kind of like, oh, this is so great. How about we meet and let me do an hour-long sales pitch to you about financial planning and how I can be your financial planner, right? And but I realized, like, he's just trying to earn a living just like anyone else, and maybe he has some good stuff that I would benefit from. And I'm trying to like turn that around to be like, no, this is just humanness, right? This is just us being human and earning a living, and there's nothing wrong with that.
I think that's really interesting. So you recognize that you had this experience in college where you really got burned.
Yeah.
So I'm going to assume by that it was not a mutually beneficial relationship.
No.
Whereas you don't know with this friend that came in whether this could be a mutually beneficial relationship or not, but because it hits your stuff, it triggers you to think, no, I don't want to get burned again, and so I am just gonna turn away from this guy. And this is where I think there is such a beautiful synthesis between these three books that we've focused on: The Inner Size, The Letting Go, and This Path to Surrender, because you can see from three different angles, like what's going on here, like how it is that this is a result of what your brain is doing. You're comparing, you're making this decision based on this old information that's in there. It's not based on what's currently going on. And it's not based what could potentially be a mutually beneficial relationship that you won't know until you investigate it. But it's determining whether or not you even want to and how you feel about the whole thing. And it's one of these questions, then, do you have control over that feeling that rises up when you're feeling triggered?
Right.
What do you do with that?
Right. That was the struggle I had yesterday, was how do I get rid of this feeling? And do I need to get rid of it? I mean, it brings up a lot of questions on.
I like that second question. Do you need to get rid of it? Like,
right.
When you understand why it's there, can you accept that there's very good reasons why it's there, even if it's an uncomfortable feeling to feel?
Right. And it brings back, here's the other big question I had. Like, what is the difference between our intuition or that gut feeling? Because there's kind of that gut feeling reaction with that dog guy, right? With the dog trainer. So what is the difference between a samskara and that gut feeling or that intuition that we're always kind of going off of? I almost would think they're kind of the same thing. But I mean, so many people swear that, oh, just go on your gut feeling, right? Go what your gut tells you to do, but that's based on all your past experiences, really. But maybe it's not. I don't know. Maybe it's this magical energy that that he's talking about. That I don't know. It just brings up a lot of questions when you start trying to apply it. You start running into, okay, well, what about this?
Yeah. I think what you're asking is, can you trust those gut feelings, those instincts? And when you're asking what's the difference between of them, and you're talking about magical energy, could you, like, what do you mean by magical energy?
Well, I can't help, like, what I really liked about the book is because it really connect the symbols that he uses with energy and blockages. It just resonated with me really well. I knew that that's not really the case, but boy, does what he talking about feels so real in terms of the way our feelings feel and the way that there's this energy that kind of passes through you when either something good happens or, so the way that he's using and the symbols that he's using just really spoke to me. But at the same time, I do have in the back of my mind, like, well, there is kind of like this energy that binds us all together that, that is kind of not magical, but it's probably something we don't fully understand, is based on our perceptions, right? This is bathing with God type talk that I'm kind of touching on. But I mean, it does seem very real. It does seem like energy when you feel feelings.
What are neurons and synapses?
They're energy, right?
What are atoms and molecules and cells?
Yeah, they're energy,
and
right?
And our physical body, like, it all is at its fundamental nature energy that's expressing itself in this thing that we call a bone or skin or flesh, or but at that deep level it is energy. And I know it can seem kind of weird to talk about and use it as a symbol, like energy that's flowing or energy that's blocking, but our blood is energy that's flowing. And so if we have this system of neural pathways that are neurons and synapses firing and communicating through the brain, that is like an electrical storm.
Right. Yeah. I totally buy that. Yeah.
So the energy, and remind me again, what did you say you were talking about, the question that you had about
this
energy?
Is, intuition, gut feeling. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. I mean, I think I agree with you, because you said, aren't they the same thing? I think so. I think in both cases, I think what happens all the time that we're just really aren't aware of is our subconscious is sending our conscious mind messages. Because our subconscious is doing way more than our conscious mind is all the time. And when it picks up on, hey, there's this thing out of the corner of your eye that looks like a snake, and you start getting that feeling of like being creeped out, would you call that a gut feeling or an instinct? Or the way that you would react to something like that, like to jump or to move out of the way, is that like a gut feeling or an instinct?
Yeah, I would think that's an instinct.
Yeah.
Built on years of evolution of us trying to avoid snakes so we don't die.
Yeah. And built on our own, so there might be that kind of like, I don't know, like years of evolution where we're somehow accessing the memories of our ancestors. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, no, I think so.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what the mechanism for something like that would be. It's an interesting idea, but most certainly if you've had the experience of a snake, you don't really need years of ancestors to know you've got that filed away in your subconscious, that it's going to communicate something to you in the form that what might seem like a feeling or a gut instinct or gut reaction, whatever these words are that we're using. So one of the points that Michael Singer makes in The Path to Surrender is he stopped listening to that because he realized that whatever his experience of the world is, it's such a small fraction of everything that exists in the world. And so, yeah, his subconscious mind is comparing what's in front of him right now to everything he's ever experienced in the past. But what percentage of that is, what would you say makes for a good decision? Like he doesn't have a big enough sample size to make an informed decision in everything. He's just going by this limited experience that he's had in his life. So he pays attention to those feelings, but he doesn't put that much trust in them, other than just like being curious that they're there, acknowledging that they're there. But he's all about trying to get to that point where you can make a choice as to how you're going to respond to it, instead of having the choice made for you because you're in fight or flight mode and you're just on automatic pilot, that sort of thing.
Right.
So yeah, we've been geeking out and talking about this book more than really coaching at this point. But yeah, what are some areas, because I'm really interested. We spent a lot of time last week talking about your parents and this feeling that you have of, and you've talked about that. There's been a common theme throughout these 5, this fear and anxiety that you have about, at some point your parents are going to find out you're not towing the party line. And that's something that has been really, really weighing on you a lot. How are you feeling about that now? I mean, have these things that you've read, have they helped you understand that?
Yeah, seeing that through the filter of this particular book has been very helpful. I wouldn't say, I should say helpful, but also there's some work to do. I realized in my perfect world, they would validate me. This is kind of going back to if the external world can be a certain way, then I'd be happy. And that's what I wanted. And I think we talked about that. Then that's exactly what I want. It's not going to happen. I shouldn't expect it to happen. So I'm approaching it more of a, okay, well, and I think they have their own same scars, right? They want all of their children to be exactly the way that they have sacrificed their whole life to be like.
Yeah.
And so I was really tempted, and it'll probably happen within this coming week, to just talk to my mom about everything, and not my dad, because I know that I would throw him into an anxiety fit. Just to kind of just talk to her about it, just actually finally, let him know. And I came really close today just to say, hey, give me a call, but I didn't want to blow my brain before our conversation today.
Yeah.
Because I did want to at least talk about this before I was totally distracted, and my default mode network went to thinking about that over and over and over again, because that's what it would do. But it's going to happen soon. And I realized that, unfortunately, I wish they could understand some of these concepts, that they could understand, that they're never going to be happy if, even if, the world is exactly like they want it. And everyone was Mormon and everyone was, conservative. And, I think that in their perfect world, that's what it would be like. And it's never going to happen. And I don't know. I'm just ready. I'm just kind of tired of worrying about it. And I'm just ready to move on. And I accept whatever response they give me is perfectly fine. That, I'll accept however upset they are, or, I'm going to love them anyway, and know that they're doing their best. So this book was definitely, well, it's not a book, it's like lectures, but it was, I think, really kind of getting me to that point of finally talking it through with them, and just, I don't know, I'm ready to be authentic and be myself, and not worry so much about what they're thinking.
You said that you're going to love them anyway, that you're going to accept what happens and you're going to love them anyway. How do you do that? Like what is the way that you show love to them when you're also delivering a message that you know that they're not going to like?
Nothing would change. I would definitely, I wouldn't change anything. The way we communicate, the way we, text each other, send each other funny things. There's a lot of humor in the family text string, and I don't think I would stop. Obviously, I wouldn't stop any of that. It's been tempting at times to just shut off any sort of communication in that, because some of it was triggering to me in terms of like, I was always anticipating this conversation, and I just didn't want to think about it. I didn't want to, it just was not fun. But I'm just anticipating when I talk to them, telling how much I love them, telling, how much I appreciate everything they've done, that the church has done for me, just being very appreciative of everything. Cause I think overall I genuinely am. I just have some same scars that are kind of hurting that a little bit. But when I think about everything the church has done for me, I mean, it has done a lot. I think I find myself in a really great place right now because of the discipline it brought me, and, the good friends and the great family structure. And I have 4 kids. I would never have 4 kids had I not been in the church. Probably would have had 1 or 2, but, so there's a lot of good things that the church has brought to me that I need to be grateful for. And I really just want to get there. I mean, I am so hungry to get to that point of just not feeling, and this goes all the way back to our first conversation.
Yeah.
Not feeling that peace. And now I kind of feel like I can get there by just allowing the world to exist and do its thing, and not try to step in front of it and try to change it to the way I want it. It's not going to happen. And it's just going to bring suffering, and to myself and probably to others as I try to change them. So that's kind of where I'm at. And it's been, how long have we been doing this? Like 5 weeks now, or 6 weeks or something
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've come a long way. I know that because I listened to that first conversation, and it was very interesting listening to that and feeling like I'm at a different place now, mentally. And now I do feel peace all the time. And I would say, as I've been meditating, I get for some reason, and I was going to talk to you about this a little bit, but I get very emotional. And just the sight, like I was walking along the river and I saw there's just this beautiful part, and there's just these little flowers coming up, and it just sent me into this emotional tears and everything. Just the sight of these flowers, just how beautiful they were, just tiny, but it's like the sight of spring. And you realize just how amazing this world is, and how we just step on it when we don't even. I would have stepped on that flower in the past. I've just been like, whatever. Yeah. But now I'm kind of in the space of really appreciating the world and who I am, and really just digging the fact that I'm in the present, that I'm not that. This, like Michael Singer said, it took like 13.8 million years to get to this point. And so I guess I'm just more appreciative of, more grateful for everything. And I don't know,
when you feel those overwhelming emotions, like looking at the beauty of the flowers, and you feel yourself getting emotional, how do you feel? Like, how would you put the feeling that you're feeling in the language of David Hawkins on that map of consciousness scale? Like what types of emotions are you feeling?
Oh, I would say, geez, I'm trying to remember the emotions that he had. I mean, it's like a love. That's how I would mostly describe it. Are you
feeling any like guilt or shame or embarrassment that you're so emotional over flowers?
No, because I'm alone. Okay, yes, there's like a little bit of me that's like what are you doing? This is weird. Why are you crying over a flower? So there is sometimes that little bit of this is weird, but allowing it to just go through and just go through me. I just let it happen. And I have this kind of weird distrust for that emotion a little bit, because I believe it's the elevation emotion, that, what I would have said is back a couple of years ago was the Holy Ghost or the Spirit, right? And I have this kind of distrust because it was like, well, this is testifying whatever is true, right? This emotion. And now I'm kind of distrustful of, I don't know what, now I'm kind of like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be learning anything about this right now. Maybe it's just an emotion, and it's a beautiful thing to feel. And maybe I should just allow it to happen because it feels amazing. It's you feel so wonderful when it happens, and not tie any sort of knowledge into it, or any sort of like, well, I'm supposed to be doing this, or, this is telling me to do this, or, so I'm still trying to learn what that emotion means to me, other than I like it. Okay. I was so afraid when this whole faith crisis thing started that I was never going to feel, quote, the Spirit again. I was never going to feel spiritual again, because that's what they told you. You can't, once you leave, the Holy Ghost is going to leave you forever, and you're going to be under the grasp of Satan and all that stuff. And I was scared to death, and that I was never going to feel that again. It was just, life was just going to be miserable. And now it kind of feels like I've been able to kind of recapture that through meditation, and through some of this kind of just appreciating things, and appreciating where I'm at. And it's been great. I mean,
all right. I want to wrap this up by quizzing you, if I can.
Mm-hmm.
So when we started this, I had you fill out a survey. I asked you several questions, and I'm going to ask you those questions again. I'm going to ask you to give me an answer, and I'm looking at your previous answer. I just want to see if there's been any movement.
Okay.
So these first series of questions, you're going to either tell me that you strongly agree, or that you mostly agree, or maybe you're ambivalent, you're right in the middle, or you slightly disagree, or you strongly disagree. So those are your 5 options. Okay.
So strongly agree. Okay.
Yeah. Strongly agree, mostly agree, ambivalent, you're kind of neutral, no real strong opinion, slightly disagree, or strongly disagree. So it's a 5-point scale with the median right there at 3 in the middle. Okay. So meditation is a healthy practice.
Strongly agree.
Okay. So that has moved from a mostly agree to a strongly agree over the last
really? Interesting.
5 weeks. Spirituality is a healthy way of looking at the world.
I would say strongly agree.
That one moved from ambivalent to strongly agree.
Huh.
Why do you think that moved?
I guess because of what I've been experiencing lately. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. And it's a deep sense of peace and love. And that, man, what's better than that?
What is spirituality to you?
I would say a deep sense of peace, and love towards other people and towards myself.
Yeah. Do you think that's how you would have defined it, 5 or 6 weeks ago when you first filled this out?
I don't know how I'd have defined it. The spirituality was a weird thing. It was just, I don't know. I didn't know how to
think of it.
Yeah.
Except through those samskaras.
Except through it's definitely a triggering word. The fact that has spirit in it.
Yeah. All right. Here's the next one. Religion has an overall positive influence on the world.
I would say, if we're just talking religion, and that's like, I have to say, I'm kind of been between strongly disagree and slightly disagree.
All right. Well, you were slightly disagree last time.
Okay.
So you still have kind of a negative attitudes towards religion in general. You don't see that religion has had an overall positive influence on the world.
No, and I admit that I read Sam Harris's book, Letter to a Christian Nation, and it just kind of screwed me over from that standpoint.
Yeah, because then you've got this samskara that says that religion, for the whole world, for the whole scope of humanity, all the time, is this thing that Sam Harris was talking about in this book, and he called it bad, and I agree with that. So it's just bad.
Yeah, I immediately went on the internet trying to find some sort of rebuttal to it, because I didn't want that. I wanted religion to be good, and
I don't know that it is good. I mean, I don't know. And there's not like a right or wrong answer here, but it's interesting from my perspective to look at this just from your mind, where you're placing value, because there is a trend. You see meditation being healthier, you see spirituality being healthier, religion, So there was something about those things that you were able to find more gratitude, more joy, more appreciation for, but religion, nah.
No.
So
and
there's still something about religion that you're just like, nah,
well,
get rid of it.
That's what I think with this, with the Michael Singer stuff, is I felt like he stripped away religion from everything and just simplified it all. And he gets rid of all the people that want power and money and all of this, the structure and the system built up around spirituality. And that's what religion is to me. Is just like the unnecessary structure. But at the same time, I back off. There's some higher, if the church wasn't as hierarchical, imagine a disaster. Like, I'm going to be going to the church if there's a giant flood, or, those guys are going to be organized. So I recognize there's value there, but hard for me.
So it's a perspective thing. It's just a way of like self-realization, recognizing, this is how you see religion, and it's still, you see it as being more net negative than net positive. So that's where you're at. Mm-hmm. There is some kind of God or supreme intelligence in the universe.
I would say mostly agree.
Okay, so that has moved up from ambivalent to mostly agree. That's interesting. Miracles happen on a daily basis.
Miracles. I just wonder if my definition of miracle back then was the same, but I would say I'll say slightly disagree, but I don't know. I feel kind of like there's an asterisk with that one. Because isn't this kind of a miracle that we're living in with the creation of I don't know. Yeah. That's how I feel now, is that we are kind of living in this amazing world and universe, and it's and nuts.
I think what you're recognizing, as I'm hearing you say, I might put an asterisk on that, because it has to do with the way that you're defining miracle. Like, what is it? And so if you define a miracle through these neural pathways that say miracles are bullshit, they're just things that people say in stories that aren't true, then that's one thing. But if you're looking at a miracle as like, wow, 13.8 billion years and every single particle is in exactly this place for this to happen right here, right now. Wow. Yeah. That's amazing.
Totally 100% behind that.
Yeah.
I would say strongly agree with that.
Yeah.
The confirmation bias type miracles, or the ones, that
it's the
church puts out there.
It's the samskara at work. That's that baggage and that trigger around that word miracle that, like in order for you to feel positive about that, it's gotta be scrubbed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. People who believe in miracles are setting themselves up for trouble. And by the way, on miracles, before you said strongly disagree, this time you said slightly disagree. So there was a little bit of movement on that one.
Yeah. Well, and I would, like I said, put an asterisk and say, of course, if we're talking the world now, that's a miracle. So this one was, say that again.
People who believe in miracles are setting themselves up for trouble.
I would say I'm ambivalent towards that. I think, I would say ambivalent. I think there's some truth to that. There's that's a tough one. I'm struggling with that one.
Well, there was some movement on that one too, because before you said you mostly agreed with it, and now you've kind of like backed off on that a little bit.
Okay.
Which the way I see it is that you're wanting to be less judgmental to people who believe in miracles. You're wanting to be more kind and forgiving than before, where you were kind of thinking, oh yeah, you're just fooling yourself. You're just, because like in that mindset, you can tell there's a different feel of what the world is, and you're in a different place now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's probably true. Yeah.
All right, I'm not going to read through all of these, but there's a couple that I'm interested in. I am a kind, loving, generous person.
I would say mostly agree. I'm not going to go strongly because that's just conceited, but I feel that way. Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want to be conceited on this? So you're saying that you really strongly agree with that, but you don't want to say that because that would be conceited? Did I understand that right?
Yeah, because my wife will hear that and be like, well, I don't know about that. I feel lately I've been just feeling a lot more joy, a lot more love, and just excitement to be alive, I would say. And that's why I hesitate saying, kind of feel like strongly agree, because I don't know of anyone that I'm I don't know of anyone that I don't like or I'm mad at or
kind, loving, generous. There's nothing conceited about saying,
generous,
that's how I am.
I am not a generous person. That's where I really struggle. I'm an accountant and I keep track of every penny I spend. I'm so ridiculously cheap.
All right. Well, we almost had some movement on that one. You mostly agreed the first time. You're kind of debating whether to strongly agree with this one, but there's still something that's holding you back from thinking that you are as kind and loving and generous as maybe you would want to be.
I feel much better than last time. I marked it in between there, so there's movement.
All right. I'm more than just my physical body.
I'm more than just my physical body. I am ambivalent towards that one.
Yeah, and you were before, so that's interesting. That didn't change. I was wondering with the Michael Singer stuff if that would have moved at all.
I mean, I can see where I could change that, but I still feel like there's so many unknowns that I don't really feel like I can honestly say yes, change that answer.
All right. It is hard for me to trust myself.
I would say that's a tough one. And I'm sorry, this is really hard, Glenn. I would say ambivalent. I still deal with some certain things. I think you've seen that front and center with some of the messages that I've sent you in terms of just the insecurities at times.
So it's still hard for you to know if you trust yourself or not. You were ambivalent before, so there hasn't been any movement on this one.
Yeah, I think it's probably better. I mean, I was wanting to go to a slightly agree.
Slightly agree that it's hard to trust yourself?
I would say ambivalent to start. It's hard to say. I mean, it's hard to say. That one's a really hard question. I'm sorry. I'm not going to have a clear answer.
Would you like to be able to trust yourself better?
Of course, yeah.
What do you think gets in the way from you trusting yourself?
I don't know. Geez, you really hit something. I don't know how to answer that.
Okay.
I think because I've made some pretty major mistakes. Obviously, I think everyone has. It's hard to fully trust yourself. But I'm getting better, and I'm.
What does it mean to trust yourself?
Oh, I guess to me, that means trust those instincts that we were kind of talking about earlier. Trust your gut feeling, trust your judgments.
Does trust mean that you're going to do it right every single time?
I guess maybe that's how I was categorizing it, as like I'm going to make it this decision, and it's going to be a good one, and I'm going to trust that I'm going to do the right thing. So some of this is a little bit abstract for my accountant small brain, but yeah.
Okay.
So,
all right. Well, we'll leave that one where it is.
Yeah.
I just want to ask a few more. We're going to change the answers now to very satisfied, somewhat satisfied, indifferent, slightly unsatisfied, or very unsatisfied.
Very satisfied?
Yeah. Very
Okay.
satisfied, somewhat, indifferent, slightly unsatisfied, very unsatisfied. So the same type of scale, but now we're talking about satisfaction.
Okay.
How satisfied are you with your spirituality?
I would say somewhat satisfied.
Okay. So that moved quite a bit because you were slightly unsatisfied last time.
Yeah.
So you skipped over indifferent up to somewhat satisfied.
Yeah.
How about your mental and emotional health?
I would say somewhat satisfied.
That moved up also from slightly unsatisfied to somewhat satisfied. And then the last one, your self-confidence.
Somewhat satisfied.
That also moved up from slightly unsatisfied to somewhat satisfied. So I'd say those three areas over the last 5 weeks, you've grown in your ability to be self-confident. You've grown in your own view of your mental and emotional health. Your idea of spirituality and what that means and how comfortable you are with that has also improved. So this has been a really interesting, fun exercise. Like you said when we started talking about the Michael Singer stuff tonight, you could spend a lot of time studying it. And it's the way that I look at it, because I've listened to that probably 5 or 6 times all the way through. I just love it. And I do get new things through it, just like going to the temple. I always get something new from it.
Don't say that.
But I always did actually get new things going from the temple, but that's because I created them in my mind, because I'm very creative. But so where I see it is that this is just, it's the constant purpose of life now, is to keep like being aware. What am I doing? What am I doing with these neural pathways? Like, I know that I've got legs, and if I didn't pay attention to where I was walking, I'd be walking into things. I'd be kicking people. I'd be tripping all over the place. Like my right leg would be going one way, my left leg would be going, like, it's really important that I have intention when I exercise the movement of my legs. Similar with my arms. What about my neural pathways? Am I just letting those things be programmed without thinking about it? And I'm just unconscious the whole time, just kind of letting it be what it is, bumping into mental walls all the time, kicking people, lashing people. I don't really understand what I'm doing. Or am I going to get some mastery over what I'm doing with this other part of my body that's harder to really understand because it's so deep inside of my skull, and it's energy. It's like this weird thing. It's not as obvious as my legs, but that's why I love this work. And coming out of Mormonism, where we have this architecture of neural pathways, these samskaras that were formed by our interactions with the Mormon church, the things that the Mormon church put in front of us that we said, okay, yeah, I'm going to believe that. No, I don't feel like that. I like that. I don't like that. Oh, I want more of that. I don't want more of that. It's the same thing as anything that's ever been put in front of us. But the Mormon church was so pervasive, such a huge influence on our lives. But it's all been this give and take between us and that thing. And now, are we at that point where we can start to control what we're doing with our brains the way that we would how we walk, how we run, how we skip, if we have
Yeah.
rhythm or not.
Yeah. And it takes work though. I mean,
Yeah.
I told you, I had to skip very important TV shows for this.
Yeah.
And that's the funny thing is like, here I am thinking that's like this big sacrifice or something. But it's like, okay, well, obviously that was like worth it a million times over.
Yeah.
To, just learn this information about my brain and be able to overcome I could have gone the rest of my life without knowing this information and probably been pretty miserable. Or been not miserable, but just like, okay. But I think this is kind of like the good news, the gospel. Like I said, it's like, oh, this is amazing information that can take me places.
And it is. I mean, you're right. It is the good news. It is the gospel. And when you look at the things that Jesus was teaching in the New Testament and the things that Buddha talks about and the things that are in like all of these old ancient traditions, systems, like these wisdom systems that religions grow around, it's all this stuff. It's all about love, like learning how to forgive yourself, learning how to be more loving, learning how to let go of the pride and the anger and the fear and the anxiety and, fear not, have faith, this good news of salvation. You're not going to be destroyed because of your sins.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's crazy also to think how polluted it's become to me, how pure what you just said was. And then now it's just this thing to control people, to cause fear in them. If you don't pay your tithing, you're gonna, it's so sad to me. It could have been this really wonderful, amazing, powerful tool in people's lives, but
still can.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yours,
it still can.
In yours.
Yeah. And I want it to be. It's good stuff, and I shouldn't be. The tendency I think we all have is we want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. With this sort of thing, throw Jesus out, throw everything out. Yeah. I don't ever want to, think about a family forever again, or I don't know, just any of those concepts. And now I find myself, I got to let some of this stuff back in, the really good stuff, the meaty stuff. As hard as it is sometimes. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Reed, for doing this.
I can't thank you enough. I think I tried to communicate that in our message the other day. I don't know how to express that. It's been, amazing, awesome experience. And I'm blown away by it every day.
Well, you're awesome. And I'm so grateful that you were willing to do this and to take it with such honesty, and had no idea, it's so nerve-wracking to go into this and like, okay, we're publishing these things before we even know what's going to happen. It's just this ongoing thing, but it's been this really fun experiment, enjoyable. And I know this isn't the end, because we're still going to be interacting. And we're just scratching the surface. We're just getting going, Reed.
Oh, I can't wait.
Keep
it going.
Cool. All right. Thank you, brother.
Thanks, Glenn.
Talk with you later.
All right.
Put down the weapons that you use against yourself. You don't need them anymore.
Hey there. Thanks for listening all the way to the end. Now, I really hope that you enjoyed today's episode. I have more to say about this topic, and I'm going to do that with a follow-up behind-the-scenes sharing time episode on Patreon. So, if you're in a position where you can throw me a few dollars each month to support the work that I put into creating this podcast, please come and support me on Patreon, where you'll also get access to additional content. Did you know that I also create sharing time episodes that are available only to Patreon subscribers? I've been doing that for a few years, so there's a lot of content there that you can have access to. So please come and support this podcast if you can. I greatly appreciate it.
Hi, this is Hillary.
Matthew.
Brian.
Carol.
Keith.
Ashley. And I like to play bingo online while listening to Infants on Thrones.
You can comment on this episode on the website, infantsonthrones.com.
And if you really like what you hear, give the Quorum a 5-star rating and write a short review on iTunes.
I did.
Anyone for the closing prayer?
My worst crime is an inside job. Dark thoughts taking over like an inside mob. I tune into the scene between the eyes and take a breath.
Thank you for listening to Infants on Thrones.
I sit still and watch the thoughts float past me. Never mind the future, never mind what the past be. I like to jump and let the universe catch me. Free fall, watch the beauty blow past me. I keep my pockets light, destination in sight. Keep my actions elevated to compassionate heights. I'm walking past the fight, laying